Good morning, everyone. Hello, hello. I want to thank you all for being here. Today, I've had a hectic morning. Actually, it wasn't that hectic of a morning. I rolled out of bed and I slept all the way to my alarm. So it was perfect. It's a perfect morning. So, I have a few topics we can discuss, but I think it'd be better today if instead of discussing whatever I want to discuss, we discuss whatever you all want to discuss. I can only go for about 30 minutes today. I have a special guest video I'm making with someone after this, and then I also have a business meeting after that. So it's going to be a busy morning for me. And then I'm playing day 2 of the $10,000 tournament. So, it's a busy day. Today, I decided to have an Ask Me Anything. This is something that's all the rage on the internet. People love the Ask Me Anythings. Maybe that's what some people thought this was all the time. And I realized yesterday, someone who is here sometimes, I don't know if they're here now, this guy Hooded, always asks ridiculous questions. And often I don't answer them because we're often busy discussing a very relevant topic. And I do think it is important whenever you are having meetings with anyone or discussions with anyone to keep discussion to the topic on hand. That's just being a responsible human. But I do understand also sometimes people have questions they want to ask that are silly, ridiculous. Maybe they're relevant, but just not, maybe they're good questions, but they may not be relevant at the time. Like, for example, Mitchell asked a great one. Do you have any tips on playing PLO? This would be a horrible question to ask when I'm in the middle of talking about keeping expenses low or something like that, right? It'd be an awful question. But right now, it's perfect. So, today, in honor of Hooded, who is very regularly in the chat, probably isn't here now. That's what happens when you give a shout out. The people aren't actually there. We're going to let you all ask whatever you want. So, any tips on PLO? PLO is a game, Pot Limit Omaha, where you get 4 cards instead of 2. It's just like No Limit Hold'em, except for you can only bet the maximum amount you can bet is the amount that's in the pot, and you must use exactly 2 of your 4 cards. A little bit different than Hold'em, because you can use 0, 1, or 2 of your cards. Usually you use 2, but sometimes 1, sometimes 0, right? Like if there's a flush on the board and you have none of that suit, you're using the board. So tips for PLO. You want to play, typically, either hands that can make lots of very strong hands. These are going to be 4 cards that are near the same rank, so they can make straights. Often you want to be playing bigger cards, because those make the top straight. Right? 2, 3, 4, 5 makes a lot of low straights. Ace, King, Queen, Jack makes a lot of high straights. Right? So you typically don't want to play the low cards. You want to be drawing to the nuts. So how do you draw to the nuts? Often that means you have good sets, and it means you have good straight draws, and it means you have good flush draws. And now, with flush draws, you actually need the nut flush draw a lot of the time. One thing that gets a lot of Hold'em players in trouble is that they vastly overvalue marginal flushes, or marginal straights, or marginal 2 pairs, right? But these hands are not so good if a lot of money goes in the pot. Like, 2 pair is almost always just a bluff catcher. 2 pair does block the sets, which is good, but if there's a straight available and a flush available, 2 pair is garbage. It's like not good at all. Blockers are more relevant in PLO. You can always tell a PLO player at No Limit Hold'em because they vastly overvalue blockers. The other day, a guy check raise flop bet turn jammed river with pocket 5s on 7, 4, 3, Queen Jack or something like that. He had pocket 5s, and we all had a joke afterwards, after he was gone, because, clearly a PLO player. So blockers are relevant because whenever you have the 2 5s, it makes it harder for your opponent to have the straight, right? Because there are fewer combinations of that. That also applies whenever you have the ace of spades and there are 3 spades on the board. You know your opponents can't have the nuts, so you can blast them. Bet flop, bet turn, jam river, and every hand's a bluff catcher, right? When you can make every hand in your opponent's range a bluff catcher, that's often quite valuable. So that's pretty cool. You should continuation bet less often in PLO, and often when you do bet, you should be betting a larger amount, because people have more equity with everything, just because they have more cards, more possibilities. And that means ranges run closer together. When ranges run closer together, you want to be betting less often, but larger. So I don't know, those are some tips for PLO. It's a fun game. But I don't think it's a great game because it's very slow to play live. Online, it clearly does go faster, so it's often better. The other problem with PLO is that pots get bigger. What happens when pots get bigger? Well, they rake more. As they rake more, clearly the edge of the good players diminish. So, there are a few problems with PLO. I don't know if they're ever going to fix them, but people love gambling at PLO, so often it attracts the gamblers as opposed to the more studious players. Am I going to play Bellagio? Nope, I'm having a baby. You're horrible at identifying player types. You really need to pay attention because you need to figure out why people are doing what they are doing. Sometimes people do things for no reason, sometimes they do it purposefully, but you have to actively pay attention to your opponents. You're probably too concerned with exactly what's going on in your cards and your hand, and maybe you're zoning out whenever you're not in the hand, so you need to pay attention to that. What was a really good strategy years ago that is worthless today? Continuation betting 100%. 3 betting and 4 betting a ton. They're good, but certainly not like they used to be. It's nearly impossible to... Oh, wait. So you don't like online poker. What do I think about making a trip to somewhere like LA or Miami to play 2-5? Sure. Those are good places to go and play. Should there be a no-limit Omaha game? I don't think it really matters. I think the pot limit part of the game doesn't really matter. If it was no limit, though, you would see more big all-in bets, because remember, you want to bet less often and more, which might actually be a good thing. Hollywood says, started poker coaching a month ago and you're seeing improvements. Great! Would you rather have the best player at the table on your left or the worst player at the table on your right? The worst player at the table on your right. Definitely. Because then you get to pick when you play with the person on your right. If they're on your left, you don't really get to pick when you play with them. Now, if there's a good player on your left, that's certainly not good. That just forces you to play reasonably strong ranges. But you have to realize most of your money is going to come from the person on your right. So if you're winning a large amount from the person on your right, but losing only the normal amount, or maybe a tiny bit more than the normal amount to the person on your left, that's going to work out well for you in the long run. Am I washed up? I don't think so. I just don't put in the volume I used to. I definitely don't put in the volume, therefore I will not have consistent results. But I mean, last 2 WPTs I played, I took an 8th and a 6th. Trying to think what was the last 10K I played. I know I took a 2nd place in the 10K last year. I don't know. I mean, I really just haven't played. Whenever you don't put in volume, you're not going to see consistent results. At least consistent like you see people on Poker News putting up, because they play literally every tournament. Whenever I think an issue with the Poker News is that people don't really factor in how much volume people are playing. And that is a very, very relevant factor. What are my thoughts on Deuce to 7? I don't know much about Deuce to 7. I would tell you to read a book on it. I know Negreanu has a book on a chapter in it, and Doyle Brunson's Super System 2. And Deuce to 7 single draw, I don't know if there's a good resource for that. How's the Bahamas? The Bahamas field was full of the best players in the world and also satellite qualifiers. So, it was reasonably good. But the high stakes games are very, very tough, which is, I guess, to be expected, really. Whenever they put on a huge guarantee, every good player in the world comes. What I recommend for further development, pokercoaching.com. Do you play more live or online? Mostly live now. In the past, though, it was like all online. Again, my priorities in life have changed. I'm not out there playing poker all the time because I have a family. I purposefully stopped playing poker all the time to have a family, but I bought a piece of a backing company to make sure I am continuously learning, right? How do you adjust for a bounty tournament? Just call shoves more. Yeah, try to get the shoves more. There's a new site called Gray Snow Poker in Oklahoma. USA players can't play on it. It's probably smart. You don't want to let USA players play on it because that's when you start getting into trouble. All right. We have a poker hand. Full ring. Also, by the way, if you're watching this not on Instagram or Facebook, once the question gets off the screen, I cannot scroll back up to it. I don't know why, but if your question goes away, feel free to type it in again. All right. 200 effective. Under the gun raises to 6. 2 callers on the button with 6s. Flop comes. 5-3-2. Undergun checks, middle position, best 12. Hero calls. Undergun raises to 35. Ugh. Fold, fold. Hero should probably call and try to get there. If you get a 6, it's almost always good. If you get a 4, it's almost always good. It's 12 to win potentially 200 or 180 more, give or take. So I think you just need to call it off. Call there and then fold to a turn bet. Been going through quizzes, but you don't see me betting larger with premium made hands and draws on the flop and the turn. What are you missing? I'm betting larger based on the board texture, not the strength of my hand. I have a video, Team Mom, on YouTube. It's called When to Continuation Bet and How Much. Go watch that. I think it's very beneficial for most people, and it really does clarify and solidify why I am betting bigger. And it's not because I have premium made hands and draws, it's because of the board texture and the frequency at which I want to bet. I feel like most players are merely card players and don't look at your range. Yeah, but as people get better and as people get smarter and study more, that will change. You watched Assassin Auto's webinar? Great, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And you got the masterclass. I'm glad that you did it. Hopefully it's helpful. In a bounty tournament, sometimes you feel like you get farther playing tighter. And then the final stage, you have low equity, or low fold equity. Yeah, so Daniel, you make money in bounty tournaments by collecting bounties very often, especially in progressive bounty tournaments like they have online now. You do not make money by playing nitty. Surviving and even winning the tournament is often not that relevant. What's relevant is collecting the bounties. Now, if the bounties are like 20% of the buy-in, then the bounties become irrelevant very quickly. But the goal is very often not to survive, because half the prize pool, or 25% of the prize pool, or some large percent, goes out to the people who bust people, and you don't get to bust people if you have no chips. Survival is overrated. What's my opinion on button straddling? Button straddling's great if the players in the blinds call a lot. Button straddling is awful for the game because it really incentivizes people to just fold. But if people are not folding, then you'll crush them. I typically don't do the button straddle unless other people are doing the button straddle. It's one of those things where someone essentially says, I want to make this game awful. And then you say, well, I guess we have to play an awful game then. Why did cash game players continuation bet second pair on the flop? Isn't it better to add that to your checking range? It depends on the scenario and depends on your opponents. One of your constant leaks is being self-aware. Any suggestions on how to not go into autopilot? Man, that's a tough question. Any suggestions on self-discipline? Realize there are right things and there are wrong things. I think developing a set of morals and a set of beliefs is not the right word, but like, for example, with a little coffee, right? I woke up at 8:30, 30 minutes before the show. I woke up, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired. But I have a set of beliefs and morals built in that requires me to wake up and do the show because I want to. I know that my feelings in the moment are overridden by my morals, and maybe ethics is the right word. I don't know. And you just do it, right? You need to figure out things you just need to do. Whenever you're playing poker, realize you are going there to try to win the most money possible. That means you will have self-discipline in times where maybe at the moment you're lacking. It means that you will pay attention because you have no other option. And I found that sort of mindset has helped me. Now, I understand I do have other options. I could just be a flake and say, screw all of you. But that's not right, and that's not nice, and that's not what I'm going to do. Have I ever played Omaha? Yeah, I played a lot of Omaha. I played live for about 6 months straight, and I played online for about 6 months straight, and won a decent amount, but like I said, variance is huge, and I prefer to play games where I can win the same amount with lower variance. Can you be good at tournaments and cash? Absolutely. Should one stick to one or the other? Absolutely. You feel like they're a little bit different. The math is the same, but the games are different. I always suggest everyone, whenever you get started, to play one game and get very good at the one game. Because once you learn how to beat that one game, you're going to be in very good shape. How do I think poker is going to change? People are just going to get better and better. Which is better to build a bankroll, cash, sit and goes, or tournaments? This is always a tough question. I think it's sit and goes are very good to build a small bankroll. Cash is good to build a medium bankroll. Tournaments are good to try to get rich. Try to get rich. PLO is great when you find a table where no one has a clue. Well, all games are great when you find a table where no one has a clue. But in more obscure games, that's going to be the case more and more often. How do you detect a flop set? When someone check min raises, you bets the turn and jams the river. But no, I mean, you're going to lose whenever you run into sets. You're supposed to lose when you run into sets. You say you have 2 pair and you ran into a set again. Yeah, you're supposed to lose. Everyone loses there. You're supposed to lose there. At what point are we doing more check calling? You should be doing a lot of check calling out of position. When you bet, you allow the opponent to raise, which blows you off your equity. So check calling is very, very powerful. Hello, how am I? I am great. What limit did you start? I started with a $50 deposit on Party Poker. Back in 2003, I was playing Limit Hold'em, 25 cent, 50 cents. I took it slow. I ran it up, as people like to say. I think when people say run it up, they think they mean it goes up quickly. And it did go up quickly enough, but I mean, it took me, 6 or 8 months or a year to really have a very good return. But I started playing 25 cent, 50 cent. I always kept at least 100 bets. Can you list all of the different player types you assign? I don't assign player types. I assign mistakes. What do people do wrong? Because, like, say you say someone's tight and aggressive, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything, right? You need to have very clear indicators of things people do wrong so that you can then adjust to exploit them. What results would you want to see to say that you're consistently beating a game? Long-term profitability. That's all you need. Long-term profitability. And then you have to ask if that profitability is good enough for you, if you're happy with that, or if you want more profitability. Some people are happy with a little bit of profitability. Some people want a lot of profitability. In a tweet I said I had 1 million chips. How is that versus average? We started with 1 million chips. I have 1 million chips. So I have less than average. Average is 1.3 million chips. How many big blinds? 40, I think. 50? I don't know. I don't really worry about that so much. I show up and I play. I don't have to sit there and think, okay, what's my 45 big blind strategy? No, I just you show up and you know your 45 big blind strategy. You've noticed the check calling tips in the quizzes. Good, I'm glad you're enjoying the quizzes. What is long-term sustainability and profitability? I mean, that depends on you again, right? As you have more and more data points, you have a larger set of data drawn, which means that your assessments will be more and more accurate, right? If you've won for 4 sessions straight, that tells you a little something. But if you've won 400 sessions, or if you have 400 sessions worth of data, that's going to tell you a little bit more. And if you have 4,000, that's going to tell you even more. So it really just depends on how much of a confidence interval you want in your data. Now, a lot of people want a lot of confidence. A lot of people just don't care. So you have to figure out what side you lie on. But I was always very nitty. I wanted a lot of data points, which is why I love playing sit and goes, because I could play 3,000 in a month, which means after a year I would have played 36,000 sit and goes. Once you play 36,000 games, you're going to have a pretty good idea of whether or not you're a winner or a loser. And that's what I did. Played for a year straight, had a good idea if I was a winner or a loser, and went from there. How much you want to hear to game theory optimal as opposed to exploitative play at small stakes? You should pretty much always be playing exploitatively. You need to understand what people are doing wrong, especially what the player pool is doing wrong at small stakes, because there everyone is bad, otherwise they would have moved up. So if everyone's bad, you need to figure out what the general player pool is doing wrong, and then you just exploit that right off the bat. And then you look for things that other people are doing specifically wrong, and then you exploit that. Ed Miller has a good chapter in Excelling at No Limit Hold'em called How to Move Up in Stakes and Stay There, and it has a lot of very good advice for that. You're going to go play... Oh, wait. Any recommendations for the best tournaments in Vegas? Ari is good. Caesars is good. MGM probably has something. I would say Venetian's good, but they dislike online poker there, so just boycott them. Bellagio's good. I mean, I don't know. Just go to the big casinos. Go see what they have. I'm sure there are websites out there that let you know what tournaments are running, so go do that. Oh, also Encore's very nice. That's one that I haven't really played much at. I've only played one tournament there, but it was great, and it's nice. Really, just go to the nice casinos. You'll have a good time. You started with one buy-in? Limit Hold'em's different. No. 25 cent, 50 cent. You can only bet in increments of 50 cents. And 50 cents and $1. So I had, I guess I only had 50 big bets to start. You would buy in for, I think, $10. But yes, Limit is a different game than No Limit. $50 bankroll is probably equivalent to a... If I was to have started playing No Limit, I would have started at 1 cent, 2 cent. It's equivalent to probably 2 cent, 5 cent, 1 cent, 2 cent, give or take. Actually, it is like 1 cent, 2 cent. It's okay to learn sit and goes to earn money for tournaments. The problem with sit and goes is you can't play very big. The profitability gets capped relatively quickly because the game is easy. Why would any casino support online poker? It takes away their business. That is a false understanding of where business comes from. Online poker is an amazing marketing tool. Amazing marketing tool. And some people don't get that because they're short-sighted. It's very important to be long-sighted. Imagine I own an online casino, as Venetian could. Hell, they may, I don't know. And that brings business into your casino, because people are very loyal to their casinos, as long as their casino treats them well. I don't know if you all are aware of that. But a lot of people play only at MGM, or only at Caesars, or only at Atlantis, or only at Baha Mar. That's how some people work. And if you get their loyalty, it's very beneficial. And if they ever get the itch to gamble at home, they'll gamble on your sites. Also, it's just good publicity. You get to give away free stuff on your sites, and then that gets people into your casino. You give away a free breakfast for playing on their, for buying into their tournament, and then people come in and they collect their free breakfast, and then they gamble. It's like, these are just common sense marketing opportunities. Is there any other job I would want to do if I could make as much money as I could playing poker? I don't know. I haven't really thought about it because I'm very happy with what I'm doing. I found a skill set that I have, which is teaching people to get better at poker and maybe better at life a little bit, and I am doing it. So I haven't really, I'm very happy with my situation. So I haven't really considered other situations. I have a job that's very good for my lifestyle at the moment because, like I said, I want to be home with my family, which means I want to be home with my family. And a lot of very good jobs require you to spend a lot of time away from your family to doing the work. And I understand that. Now, I guess you're saying if I could have the exact same lifestyle? I mean, I don't know. I'm happy with what I do. I have a lot of different things that I do. I do actually like the idea of being a consultant a bit more. I consult for the poker backing company, for example. I consult for book publisher. I consult for quite a few people at this point. And I do enjoy that part, because really it's just you talking and having calls and giving your opinion. It's great whenever people value your opinions, right? So if I could just give my opinion all day, it would be fantastic. Which I guess is kind of what I do anyway. Bravo Poker app. Yes, it has info on all the card rooms. Yeah, do that. Can someone be consistently profitable not playing long term? Well, I don't know what long term means. That's another concept. And what does consistently mean? Like, imagine you play one time a week. Like, imagine you know you're going to play 10,000 games in your life. Pretend like that is long term, but you only play one game a week. Are you going to have monthly swings? Like, obviously, yes, right? So it's kind of a silly question. Have I ever played on Poker After Dark? No. Have I ever played on Poker Night in America? I think 3 or 4 times. Would I? Yes. I'm always happy to play. Am I excited for Las Vegas in 2020? I have no clue about any of these openings you were talking about. One thing I noticed that you know how the table, or how many chips the table has. Is that just from experience? That's from practicing. You need to get a bunch of chips, pile them across the table, get used to counting those chips, and figure out exactly how many chips someone has. But if you cannot look, like whenever I ask people, can I see your chips, please? They pick up their hand, and like an eighth of a second, I know plus or minus like 5% how many chips they have. Because you just know. You know what a chip stack looks like. And it's not hard once you practice. When I sit down to play Cash Session, at what point do I leave? I usually leave after a set amount of time, or when the game gets bad. I don't leave when I'm up or down. When I am down a lot, very often I'm asking, am I happy to continue sitting here for my expectation? So say I expect to win $100 an hour playing 5-10 no limit. If I sit there, I get buried 4,500, I'm kind of pissy, maybe something else is going on in life, I ask myself, would I be happy sitting here for another $100? Because that is what you're doing. You're sitting there collecting hourly rates. You're not trying to get even or anything like that. You know, on average, you're going to make $100. So, am I happy sitting there for $100 an hour? And the answer is sometimes no. Then you get up and you leave. You said, I don't suggest playing online. Where can you play online in California? Didn't I say online players are just better? They are. There are a few unregulated sites in America I tend to not to promote. I'm sure you can do a little bit of diligence. There's only 3 or 4 of them that are thought to be better than others. Who's my most feared opponent? I don't really fear anyone. I don't know. I mean, I don't have fear. I have respect. I have respect that the opponents will play very well. I guess the question is, who is the most respected opponent? I like playing with Dominic Niche. He's always on my left. Seems like he's always on my left. And he seems to always make pretty good plays. Also, your experience of playing at the table will jade your thought process of people as well. What's my favorite place to play? I don't really care that much. Have I ever played in the Northeast? I don't know what the Northeast means. Like in Newfoundland? I've never played in Newfoundland. You have a 95% ROI in tournaments. Is that sustainable? Yeah, maybe. The games are soft. This best question about poker. How much time is left in online poker? I'm not worried about bots. Sites are pretty good at catching them and closing them down. I think a lot of people are concerned about stuff like that, but I think it's not that big of a deal. And also the bots aren't even good yet. Maybe the bots will be good one day. I don't know. It's tough to say. Do I push harder when I get below average? No. You should play fundamentally sound in most scenarios. Stop wins are bad, but our stop loss is reasonable. If you do not have a good mindset, stop losses are very reasonable. Stop wins are very reasonable if you don't have a good mindset. Who do you think is the best cash game player? Oh, I don't know. I don't play the best. I don't play in the biggest cash games. I saw Andrew Roble here yesterday. He's always playing super high stakes and getting in games, so maybe he's the best cash game player. Seems to have a good lifestyle. He gets to play in great games. He seems to win all the time. Although he told me he was buried out here, so. Perceptions, right? I'm going to go with Andrew Roble. Because we're friends. Do you ever get the shakes at the table? No, not really. Biological conditioning is a neat thing. If you get used to doing things, you will become way more comfortable at it. I was very lucky in that whenever I was in band in high school, I was the first chair trumpet player. I was the best trumpet player. And for some reason, the band director always gave me solos to play that were way too difficult for me. And we would go out and we would play on the football field, and I would inevitably screw it up. And I would do this 70% of the time. I'd mess up. I don't know why I did this, but it made me very used to failing. And I think it's very good to fail because it teaches you that it's A-okay. Let's see, I skipped a question. You like to play against creative pros. I mean, I don't really care who I play against. When playing in cash games, you always buy in for the maximum? No, I discussed this in Jonathan Little on Live No Limit Cash Games. There are reasons to buy in for the max and reasons not to buy in for the max. I buy in for the max about 90% of the time. What do I think about players who wear sunglasses at the table? I don't think anything. I'm trying to not be judgmental. Would you like to play in a super high stakes tournament? You know, Stefan Sondheimer is a good example of someone who I'm sure is perfect at poker. But every time I've played with him, he's played rather tightly. He's completely got crapped on, and he's lost every hand he's touched. It's always amazing to me whenever you see people who like can't win a hand against you, yet somehow you see them winning the tournaments. Variance, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, your perception of things are wrong. We talked about perception yesterday. What you think is kind of irrelevant. I don't know what I bet there are people who usually buy in your actions means. All right. Do you recommend that people become a professional poker player? No, probably not. I don't recommend people become a professional anything. If you pick a profession out of all the professions and say, hey, you should become this to a random person, that's probably a very, very bad idea. Hello, from Hong Kong. Good morning. Hong Kong, I bet, is a great place to play. I imagine the games are pretty good still. Anytime they introduce poker to a new area, the games are usually pretty great. But being a poker pro is tough because you lack the structure and you lack the safety net that a lot of jobs provide. Whenever you have a job, you gain skills that are practical in the real world. I mean, that is the case for poker too, but they're not necessarily appreciated skills. Often you have some sort of retirement account, you have some sort of insurance, you have some sort of support group around you. There are a lot of things that regular jobs provide that poker does not provide. Do I sell action? Typically for the bigger tournaments. If I could play only on online or live, which would I do? Well, I'm pretty much only playing live, so I guess the answer is live. Cool thing about live is you play with weaker players for more money. And you get to interact with humans. What do I think about defending the big blind with weak aces against under-the-gun players? It's a tough spot. You probably just should if it's heads up, but it's rough. What percentage of bankroll do you not go over for a buy-in? I don't really think of my money that I have as my bankroll anymore. Whenever you are coming up, growing your bankroll initially, it's very important. But at this point, I have more money than I invest in poker. And do I consider my retirement account poker money? I mean, not really. But at the end of the day, if I was to lose all of my money, it would be fine. Also, I have a business. where I bring in significant money each month. So I don't really have that mindset anymore. What cash game stakes do I typically play? Usually 10-20 or higher, but now I just play when the games are big and good, so I guess the answer maybe isn't even 10-20. Like, for example, here they have 10-25 games that look okay. I have not even wanted to play. Like, I have no desire. I don't need to. That's what it amounts to, is I'm at a point in my life where I don't need to go play to grind out money. Would I go sit in the cash game room to win $200 an hour? And the answer is no. I'd rather sleep. Lucky, huh? Sometimes you're lucky. Can you talk about the 7-2 hand in the Aussie Millions? Oh, this is a long time ago. I don't remember the exact spot, but I think everyone was playing really nitty, and I think I raised pre-flop, bet turn, jammed river with a bluff on a 4-straight board with like a bad pair, and a lady called with ace king high. It was fun. I don't really remember that hand. I don't remember that spot. What percentage of your buy-in should you use to buy into poker? Now, that's a different question. Depends on you and your situation, right? Shot taking is reasonable. I would tell you something like 2% of your bankroll or more is probably too much. So isn't your life roll your bankroll? No, because I never play anywhere near the amount that my whole net worth could sustain. Let's say I could be buying into 100K tournaments, and it would be pushing it. I would just never buy into a 100K tournament. Like I said, I'm selling action in 25K, so I'm playing like well below my net worth, right? And that's because I really just don't want to go broke, and I don't need the variance in my life at this point. If possible, will you sit to the left of a very aggressive player? Absolutely. How sustainable is this for me to... How sustainable is this show for you? Very. It's easy. It's not hard. I just get online and I talk. And can big overlays hurt a company like Party Poker? I don't know. It depends on how much money Party Poker's making. I don't know how much they're making. The question is if they end up giving away $1 million a series, let's say, is that sustainable? And I don't know. I don't know how much money they're making. If they're making $1 million a month and they're giving away $1 million, the answer is obviously no. If they're making $10 million a month and they're giving away $1 million, the answer is obviously yes. Am I going to play a 25K tournament? I am not, because I'm having a baby then. Louis Philippe says, time's up. Have a great day, everybody. Yeah, I have to get going soon. Very soon, actually. The problem is I always like to go the maximum. I like going the maximum for all of you. Do I play Hearthstone still? Very little. I say very little. I think my guys... I've been playing Wild because I thought Standard is very, very boring. So I've been playing Wild. I think I'm up to like rank 2 at the moment. I don't know. I don't play a ton, though. Would be an hour of advice on a newish player... Or wait, what would be an hour of advice? I mean, I can't give you an hour of advice right now. John, I'm not sure what you're asking. Basically, start tiny and grind it up. How much markup do I charge? What I think is a fair markup. If I'm selling action for some sort of a package, let's say for a soft main event and then a 25K, I'll sell the main event action for something like 1.25, 1.3, depending on the softness level or perceived overlay. And then for 25K, I'll sell like 1.05 or something like that. I try to be very reasonable with the markups. Do you tip after a win? Depends on how much they take ahead of time. You meant New England. Oh, not Newfoundland? I've never played in the New England area. Oh, I guess if you're counting Foxwoods, yes, I won a poker tournament in Foxwoods. I've had good success at Foxwoods. I've won a WPT, and I've taken 7th or 8th in a WPT. So, it was good. Have I ever had any dealings with spotting a card? I don't know what spotting a card means. All right. Funny enough, I probably made Hooded leave because I was mean to him yesterday. Hooded, I'm sorry for being mean to you. You asked silly questions. Today was your chance. You didn't even come. So, that's okay. How can you become one of my backers? I only take on backers who buy large percentages at this point. I don't know if you have plenty of money or not, but you can email support@pokercoaching.com. And if you're looking to buy, I don't know, 10K plus worth of action, then I'm happy to have you. It's another thing where I don't really want to... I don't like the financing. I have a group of people who buy my action at the moment, but hey, if you're willing to write big checks, I'm always happy. Check out Poker Shares. Be careful buying action on sites that allow you to buy action on people because they're making money off of you. VIG is high on those sites. If they're charging like a 5% or 10% VIG, as they all are, That's very, very unsustainable. Like, you see some sites where people have to sell really high markups because the site takes 10% of it. Edges are thin in backing. Often when you're backing someone, you want to give the backee half of the profit and the backer half the profit. And if the site takes 10% and you have a perceived ROI of 30%, well, now you're making 10% maybe. So be careful with that. All right, time to go. Have a great day. Enjoy yourself. Oh, you mean spotting a card means, have I ever spotted a cheater? Yeah, in a home game a long time ago. Only one time have I completely spotted a cheater. It was in a home game. A husband and wife were cheating, and it was a kerfuffle, and then they left. All right, have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. Tomorrow, will I be back tomorrow? There's a chance I won't be back tomorrow. We're dressed up right now because I have to go to a party tonight. A birthday party for one of my friends. So there's a chance we will not be here tomorrow, but I probably will be. Have a great day. Good luck. Enjoy yourselves. Is today Friday? It is. Hope you all have a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend. Realize your time is limited. I can all tell you one piece of advice. Your time is limited. Make sure you use it wisely. I wish you all the best of luck in your decision-making processes.